The Little Mermaid. Once upon a time, deep down in the ocean, there was a magical palace where a mysterious family of merfolk lived. The grandmother, who is the mother of the Sea King, ruled over this palace. She had 6 lovely granddaughters, but her youngest granddaughter is her absolute favorite. The Little Mermaid isn't just the prettiest, she is also always dreaming about the world beyond the sea. When the Little Mermaid turns 15, she can't resist sneaking up to the surface to see what's going on above. As the sun sets, making the sea all golden, she notices a huge ship with big, puffy sails. Curious, she swims closer to get a better look. On the ship, there's a lively party happening, celebrating a handsome prince's 16th birthday. The Little Mermaid is mesmerized by his charm and beauty. As night falls, everyone on the ship gradually falls asleep. Suddenly, a big gust of wind came, making the waves rough and wild. The sailors struggle to steer the ship, but it is too tricky. The waves smash the ship into tiny pieces. From far away, the Little Mermaid watches everything unfold. She swims over to the prince who had fallen into the water, and embraces the prince who is already gasping for breath. The Little Mermaid lifts his head above the water and pulls him to shore. The Little Mermaid finally spots land. She gives the prince a kiss on the cheek, hoping he'll wake up. But at that moment, she hears footsteps approaching. Quickly, she has to leave the prince behind and duck behind a rock. A young girl comes up to the prince, and right then, he wakes up. He smiles at the girl, thinking she saved him. Watching this, the Little Mermaid feels so sad. With a heavy heart, she swims back to the palace deep under the sea. However, when the Little Mermaid goes back to the beach where the prince woke up, she finds that the prince is already gone. Feeling really sad, she shares her secret with one of her sisters. Soon, all the mermaids know about her feelings. One of her sisters knows where the prince's palace is. So, they all take the Little Mermaid and swim to the bay where the prince lives. There, at the shore of the grand palace, the Little Mermaid sees the prince again and smiles happily. From that day on, she visits the prince often, and she starts to like humans more and more. She really hopes she can go ashore and live with them. So she goes to ask her wise grandmother, "What are the differences between humans and merfolk, and how can a mermaid become human?" Her wise grandmother explains that humans may have short lives, but they have souls. When they pass away, they go to the sky and live in heaven forever. Mermaids, though, can live for up to 300 years. But when they die, they only become foam, drifting on the sea without ever seeing the sky again. If a mermaid wants a soul, she needs a human who loves her more than anything else, marries her, and then he might share his soul and happiness with her. However, her grandmother thinks it's impossible because humans won't fall in love with mermaids. After all, their fishtails are just too strange for humans. The lovesick Little Mermaid quietly goes to the witch in the bog for help. The witch agrees to help her, but the Little Mermaid must trade her voice in exchange. She agrees anyway. The witch gives her a potion, saying it will turn her fishtail into legs. Legs that can dance the lightest dance ever. But from then on, she can't go back to the sea, and every step will feel like walking on knives. If the man she loves marries someone else, by the next morning, she'll turn into foam in the sea. Once the Little Mermaid drinks the magic potion, she can't talk anymore. She dare not go back to her father's palace, so she stayed on the beach in front of the prince's palace. As the sun rises, the Little Mermaid grows 2 legs. But, as soon as she stands up, she feels a piercing pain shooting from the soles of her feet. Pain that is so intense that she immediately faints. When she wakes up, she finds herself lying in a grand chamber. Sitting in front of her is the prince she has longed for. So, the Little Mermaid stays in the palace and becomes the most beautiful girl in the entire place. However, she can neither sing or speak. But her dancing is undoubtedly the most beautiful and most dazzling. Each step she takes shines a new light to her beauty. Yet, each step she takes, she has to endure excruciating pain. The prince is deeply captivated by the girl, and he refers to the Little Mermaid as Little Orphan. She and the prince live happily together for a while. But each night, she sits by the seashore and gazes into the depths of the ocean, longing for her family. Every night, her sisters will visit her. They hold hands and sing melancholy for her. Far out at sea, the grandmother and the Sea King, who haven't surfaced for a long time, are also watching her. Although the prince loves the Little Mermaid, he has no intention of marrying her. Before long, there are rumors that the prince is about to get married, and his future wife is a beautiful princess of a neighboring king. The Little Mermaid accompanies the prince to welcome this princess. When the princess walks into the room, the prince is shocked. Isn't she the girl who saved him? So, he immediately puts aside his love for the Little Mermaid, and wholeheartedly looks at his bride-to-be. The Little Mermaid has to watch this scene unfold before her very eyes. She glances down at her own legs, and struggles to hold her sorrow within. She dances her heart out for the groom and bride, making everyone cheer with joy. She has never danced so happily before, even as this will be her final dance. She gave up her family, sacrificed her enchanting voice, endured excruciating pain every day, all for the prince to remain unaware of her sacrifices. When night falls, and everyone is asleep, the Little Mermaid waits disappointingly on the dock for the morning. Then, her sisters appear on the surface of the water. They had lost their long locks of hair. They tell the Little Mermaid that they traded their hair for a knife from the witch. As long as she stabs the prince's heart with this knife before dawn, and let his blood flows onto her legs, she can turn back into a mermaid, and return to the sea to enjoy her long life of 300 years. Morning is fast approaching. The Little Mermaid pulls back the purple curtain on the prince's bed. She leans down and kisses the prince's handsome face, and she proceeds to throw the knife into the sea. And with that, she leaps into the sea. She feels the frigid cold piercing into her skin. She feels her body slowly turning into foam. As dawn breaks, the Little Mermaid disappears. She is forever gone, becoming a part of the foam made by waves. The Little Mermaid comes from a book of stories by Hans Christian Andersen. This fairy tale inspires us to reflect on how we find ourselves through its themes of self-discovery and sacrifice. The Little Mermaid gives up her voice, and even her life to become human, and be with the prince she loves. But it teaches us an important lesson. While it is good to explore who we are and what we want, we shouldn't forget our own limits. We shouldn't give up everything we believe in just to chase after something. The Little Mermaid's sacrifice shows us that real happiness comes from being true to ourselves. So, it's important to know and respect our own boundaries as we grow up and find what makes us truly happy.